This is UAP. This is a very interesting video and a unique story. I believe this represents proof of time travel by a very specifically designed UFO or UAP. It's following this form factor here. And this unique form factor is the key to this discovery. This UFO, represented here by a wireframe model, has appeared within the 2 to 3 miles of the same location, viewed by two different parties, two different groups of parties actually, one group, one individual. It's been reported, the viewers have been interviewed by me, and the stories have been verified. The point being, these two sightings of this same UFO in the same location are 50 years apart. I believe this is the same ship. I believe this is evidence of UAP time travel. Let's get started on the presentation. Fascinating story from UAP. This is a presentation about what I believe to be a proof of time travel of UAPs. At least it's my presentation on it. You can take a look at this if you like. UAP.zone is the website. So let me just explain this. I have been doing research on this particular UFO for a while, and recently I've been following up with some stuff. There's a unique, rare UFO form that was sighted in a very specific location 50 years ago. And just recently, in the last few years or so, this, what would have to be, in my opinion, same UFO appeared in the same location. So, is this proof of time travel? Is this ship the same ship that appeared 50 years ago? It's certainly the same form of that ship. If these were advanced aliens, you would think that that technology and that form factor would have changed somewhat and left it, unless it was totally perfected over that 50-year period. So, you know, the question becomes, is this 50-year period between these two sightings just a matter of minutes or seconds for this UFO? So is this the same UFO appearing and disappearing in the same physical space here? And I think with this time differential, that this certainly implies time travel, at least travel backwards in time. So this is an X-shaped UFO with spheres on the edges. You'll see a picture of it later. Again, original witnesses were interviewed in depth from 50 years ago, and then subsequently a witness submitted a detailed report to a reputable reporting group 50 years later, anonymously, I believe. So, you know, this is this proof of time travel? I think this is some really hard evidence that we can, you know, deduct time travel from. And I have several sources here, but I think we can. The way that time travel has been sussed out, to the best of my ability, at least in the present, is now remote viewers can forecast into the future, but without exact information. But what the experts are saying is the federal government has possessed the ability to travel backwards in time for a while, and that this is alien technology. And what we are looking at, and what Jason Revapreza, I believe is the researcher's name, has said, do we have a 1% traveling back in time from the future using this UAP technology to ensure their position as the 1% in the future, or to drive a more powerful position for them in the future? He speculates that this is the reason why we're warring. This is the reason why we have conflicting religions, and why we can't get together as a planet is because it behooves this ruling 1% in the future to keep us divided. And he takes us back to Egypt, and how Egypt was, a hierarchy, a 1% society, and that this is the model. That's one possible future that they're traveling back from. Another one is a non-human biological future intelligence. You could speculate that a non-human biological being has taken over the 1%, let's say the 1% position in Earth society in the future, and it's traveling back in time to foment this division and keep the religions separate and keep everyone fighting so that no one organizes, and this enhances their power in the future. This is kind of a theme in this type of work. Now a third possibility is, this is also because Gresh said, well, there's evidence of non-human intelligence. Well, it's not necessarily biological intelligence. It could be non-human AI intelligence from the future. And the AI could be manifesting itself in these UAPs, and again, traveling back from some future time to ensure its dominance at that time by making things happen in this time frame. Okay. I think if you look at the story of human abductions and human hybrids, David Jacobs' work with human abductions by aliens, it kind of sounds like Elon Musk's use of iterative learning to get the cars to establish full self-driving. In other words, the self-learning programs at Tesla regarding full self-driving are these AI models learning from the experience of viewing hours and hours and hours of video from Teslas being driven all over the world. And this accumulates in their data, and it becomes their learning model, and they learn what to do and what not to do by these iterations. Every time there's a break or an intervention, the system recalibrates and so forth. If you look at the human abduction story, and I know everybody has said, well, if these aliens are so smart, why do they keep making these, the hybrids? At least initially, when Jacobs was studying the phenomenon 20 years ago, the hybrids were terrible. They were barely human, and they barely had any human characteristics at all. If you look at Jacobs' final work, he's retired now, and I have several videos in my collection that I've done on Jacobs' abductions. You could see that this abduction story goes through iterations. The hybrids keep getting better, 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 much like full self-driving. Training through AI is getting better, 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 to the point with David Jacobs where these hybrids are indistinguishable physically from humans. They have to be taught human culture and so forth, but as far as the physical species of these hybrids, they look just like humans. They're indistinguishable, and Jacobs even contends the MyLabs are. The military personnel that people see in abductions are not. People are mistaking them for U.S. Army personnel and so forth. These are the security forces of the hybrids that have been developed through the hybrid breeding program that has been in execution by these gray drones, which could be AI created drones, for years. So, I mean, that's kind of an aside, but this could be, again, future AI coming back into the past to alter this timeline with these hybrids and so forth to ensure their position in the future or increase their position in the future. But I think it's important to take a look at these three. You know, it could be let's say 1%. Let's call out the Illuminati and the Freemasons, okay? Because they supposedly have alien contact. And then you have non-human, which is, purely extraterrestrial. The Nordics, the tall whites, and so forth. And then we have non-human AI intelligence from the future, which could be behind the abductions. And it could be iterative learning, a AI program to teach itself how to create a hybrid human. I mean, when you compare it again to the full self-driving program that Tesla's instituting right now, wow. Or any other AI, but specifically Tesla's, I think, applies here. And it could be all three, okay? I remember I was buying a stereo one time and I told the guy, well, what's more important, the speaker, the wiring, or the amp? Because everything's important. Again, all of these could be factors. It doesn't have to be one thing. But I think you could see how you could leverage time travel from the future to change time, to influence elections, to change the laws being made, to have two parties fight wars, to keep populations down, and so forth. So, seeing this same UAP, and again, I think the key here is the unique configuration of this UAP. This is a very rare form factor for a UAP, and to have it be seen in the same location 50 years apart, I think is telling. This UAP time travel would also explain, if you remember Area 51, what's his name? The whistleblower from Area 51. Of course, his name escapes me at the moment. He said the sport model he was working on, he believed it was an archaeological find. That would imply time travel, okay? Or it could imply time travel. In other words, that craft was traveling back from the future to a past time and broke down and became an artifact, something you would find in an archaeological dig. So I think the time travel, I'm not saying there is no intergalactic travel, but this certainly changes my opinion of time travel. I think weight should be given to this it seems, especially with this evidence to me, to be more promising. Now this is the present report, and this is occurred 2011 and reported 2019. So reported, 4 or 5 years ago. And this is in Ohio, and cross shape posted on 2019. Lights on object aircraft nearby. It was exact shape of a plus sign in a circle at the end of all 4 arms. Ending a point in a larger circle center was ending in a larger circle in the center. It was extremely bright, like a lead light, and kept fading to a blackout, then glowed bright again. I ruled out a hot air balloon as things kept making an oval circle, and it was always in the direction of Vienna Air Base, which is a National Guard C-130 air base. I wrote down immediately all I could remember as soon as I finally disappeared and made no sound. Looked more like it was floating. So, there's a slight difference here that these spheres at the end of these arms are ending in a point in a larger circle in the center. The larger circle in the center is likely a common characteristic, ending in a point. The previous witnesses did say there were lights, like running lights at the end of each of these arms, at the end of these spheres, and that may be seen, in my opinion, as a point or a different shape of the object at some distance, that light. This is by Vienna an Air Force base that's a National Guard. Now there is an armory near this location called the Ravenna Armory, which it is purported during the Cold War was a storage base for nuclear weapons. Although this has never been stated or proved, that was the lore there, that it was, and every time there was a major conflict during this period, this National Guard base would be very active with C-130s circling, according to witnesses, and going down the runway, getting loaded with something, taking off again in a convoy manner. So that we all know about the connection between UAPs and nuclear weapons. But I have a image of this in a minute. But so this is from posted in 2020. So that's not too long ago, okay? And this is a new force. This is a very, well-regarded source, 20 to 30 minute sighting. Okay, now it was the exact same, and this is just a blow up of that text, ending in a point. A larger circle in the center is extremely bright, like a lead light, kept fading to blackout and then glowed bright again. Again, these lead lights, the other individuals reported running lights, okay, and also bright lights, and this shape, a cross, would circle at the ends of all 4 arms, okay? Now, this is the original sighting in 1974. They were riding in a car, 3 witnesses, bright light, bluish white call of light pointing down. They thought it was a helicopter from an airport, from this reserve base. As they drove by a complex of low buildings, they saw the object descend. It was a plus sign shaped UFO with each of the 4 arms about the size of a semi-trailer, with spheres at the end of each arm. I just want to mention that in Lou Elizondo's book that's just coming out now, he mentions that the reason flying saucers are around is because there's a bubble around them that's involved in the propulsion. And he said if you see a triangle, it's got a light at each corner of the triangle, and those are bubbles, those are propulsion bubbles. And if it's a really big one, it's got a light in the middle too. And if you see one that's a cigar shape, it's got a bubble at each end. This would be the size of a plus sign with a bubble on each end, which would correspond with Elizondo's drive notion of UFO drive systems. In any case, just after a car in front of them drove off and back on the road and then left at a high speed, the subject's car drove toward the UFO, which was hovering silently at the edge of a large flat-roofed 3-story building. The UFO had a bright white column of light shining on the roof. It had hieroglyph-like blue symbol writing on the rear arm, illuminated in white light. The craft also had running lights like an aircraft. And these are the lights that I mentioned in the previous section. In the front sphere, there was a slit opening, backlit in blue light. Shadowy figures were moving around. The car approached the building. The craft turned. And the spear with and that says slip, that's supposed to be slit, was present. And then it turned back and the UFO started to move forward very slowly with lights still shining down. The car was driving slowly, pacing the UFO just 100 feet or so away. The passenger rear opened the window. There was no noise. The area was well lit. Numerous details could be seen on the craft. After several minutes, the craft turned right and floated slowly over the parking area it was driving on. The car was driving on. It was the same height as it was over the building, and the car lagging slightly behind and below it followed. After winding through a series of tall security light poles, the craft gained a slight bit of altitude, floated over a road, over a wooded area, and hovering after a second or two, accelerated to point of light on the horizon and disappeared. Now, looking at maps and things, this is also uncanny. The area that this headed towards is the area where this sighting was 50 years later, approximately. And this is all within, 5 square miles or so. So that's also a weird coincidence. The witness said it was large. It was a big UFO, appeared to have a surface which seems like a concrete structure poured into forms. Weird, like maybe some type of heat tiles for re-entry. There were some visible ridges on these forms. The sides of the UFO were scorched as though it had entered the atmosphere, and the flames licked the cylindrical arms and spherical ends. The glyphs resembled blue geometric patterns. A light embedded in the craft illuminated them in white light. The string of symbols was approximately 6 feet long and 18 inches high. Now, from beginning to end, the witnesses said this was 20 to 30 minute sighting. Probably within 100 feet at times. And many different views, side view, underneath view, trailing view of this object. And it is described, I would say, with human error taken into account, it is the same type of UFO that was reported 50 years later in 2020 in the same area. I think this is uncanny. Now, the shape is the critical factor. The second was a more detailed and longer encounter, but the shape of the UFO is the same, and the location is essentially the same. The only major difference is 50 years between encounters. So, this is just uncanny. There are some slight differences, mainly the pointed ends of the spheres from the present-day witness. The running lights viewed from a distance, perhaps in a mist, could account for this difference. As well, there are always slight differences in witness statements, but this is 90% the same sighting. And I think the shape is a critical factor in this analysis. Now, the shape of this UFO, plus or cross, is really quite rare. I've seen only one report of several of these crafts surveying a remote logging room. An engineer witness here actually calculated the power generated by the shape and the color of the aura around the cloud. And this is a very interesting video. There are a number of videos on this same subject. I am going to try to play this now. I may have to edit this in post, but let me just start this now. Let's open this link. And this is Cosmic Road, and it's very good. It does daily reporting on these types of things. Anyway, we're going to mute the sound there, and we're going to just move forward. Now, there is the shape that this engineer encountered. Now, these are not spheres, and this is a dumbbell, not a cross, but this is the nearest form factor I could get to in present day reporting is this right here. And this engineer, by the color of this aura that this thing had, he and you can look at this video yourself. I'll put a link in the description. He estimated that it would take the power needed to run a major city to power this thing. Anyway, that is the form. This is a relatively recent sighting of a similar but not the same type of craft. You could even say this is more of a cigar-shaped craft, actually. Anyway, let's move on to the next example here. Now, the only other mention of this shape I could find is, again, and this could involve time travel as well, the medieval woodcut illustrating the UFO battle over Germany. This is regaled in ufology about a battle that was fought in medieval times, and it appeared in this broadsheet. And you can see here, look here, I will circle this with my mouse. There is the form factor. There is the form factor again. Now there's a form factor without spheres. There is the form factor again. This is really the only example I could find where this form factor is. And again, time travel could be implied, but you can see the different colors of these orbs. Again, running lights. Okay. And this is, again, a very famous woodcut. Germany, the city of Nuremberg, on April 14, 1561. And printed as illustrated news notice in the same month. So, again, evidence of tram travel of this really unique UAP. If anyone has seen a UAP shaped like this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Okay? Now, this is a rough rendering. This is a crude rendering I did on SketchUp. But just to give you an idea, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a tube here with a sphere on each end, and perhaps this forming more of a spherical junction in the center, which I really couldn't illustrate. But this is the X or plus shape, and again, Lou Elizondo has mentioned that these are power nodules. Okay, and there's a human that human might be a little big, but it's a rough approximation. This, according to the viewers of the UFO, was it's a big thing. Okay. Now this is, and again, this is based on the testimony from the witnesses who saw it 50 years ago that I interviewed.